Hi everyone, I've made a couple of videos talking about how the LBRP wasn't working out for me and how I changed it to make it work out for me. I thought it might be worth making a video where I show you first of all the traditional way of doing the LBRP, that is the way that is recommended by the Golden Dawn in their initiation papers, and then to show you how I specifically do it, and I'll refer you to the other videos that I made to get an idea of why I made the changes that I made. So let me first of all perform the LBRP for you in the fashion of the Golden Dawn, and I'll start in the East, my actual East, and I'll also describe what's going on internally, which, as it turns out, is much more important than the movements that you're performing. Ato, Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. Yod He Vav He. Adonai. Eheye. Agela. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. On my right hand, Michael. On my left hand, Uriel. For around me flame the pentagrams, and in the column shines the six-rayed star. Ato, Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. So the earliest mention of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram that I've been able to find comes from the initiation papers of the Golden Dawn. And so it makes sense for me to show you that version first. This has been adapted by Thelema and then later by Wicca. But what I'm going to show you today is the basics upon which you can expand as much as you wish. Now, some of you may be surprised that I don't have an altar out. Well, that's because I want to show you the LBRP the way most people perform it. If you are the kind of person who's got a space like this that's available 24/7, by all means, set up an altar. I've cleared out my dinner table here to be able to present this video to you guys. I normally perform the LBRP on the spot, and that is in fact how most people perform the LBRP, on the spot. No walking around the temple. What temple, right? I was very worried about this when I started out. I wrote to the wonderful Lon Milo Duquette, and he very kindly answered, saying to me, don't worry about space. I regularly banish in the bathroom of an aeroplane. And that made me think, okay, well, if he can do it in the bathroom of an airplane, then I can probably do it on the spot as well. The other thing is that I'm wearing plain clothes. Now, you can embellish your LBRP as much as you like with ceremonial robes, with an altar, with magical weapons, but I want to show you how most people perform the LBRP on a daily basis with nothing but themselves, which really is all that you need. When you get very good at this, you'll notice that you won't even need an able body to do it either. You should be able to do it all in your mind. So ultimately, the more stuff you add to the LBRP, well, the more lavish, the more ceremonial it looks. But the real work is happening inside, in your imagination and beyond your imagination. Now, sticking to the letter of the recommendations of the Golden Dawn in this first demonstration, you would start facing east. If you don't have an altar, you can imagine that there is an altar at about waist height in front of you, a small oblong high altar. Now, there's a step which is recommended by followers of the Golden Dawn later on. For instance, Israel Regardie talks about this step in his book The Middle Pillar, but it's not mentioned in the Golden Dawn initial papers. And this step is to imagine yourself growing so tall that your head goes through the roof, through the clouds, and into the stars above, so that the planet is just a tiny ball between your feet. This is a step which is recommended to incorporate a little later when you become quite proficient at the LBRP. So the LBRP has 4 steps. The first and the last steps are the same. They are an invocation of the highest form of divinity. Now, different people will have different ideas of what this highest form of divinity is, but the words that are pronounced are the words that appear at the end of the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. This is how it goes. Ato Malkut Vegevura Vegedula Leolam Amen. So that's what it looks like from the outside, but now let me tell you what's going on the inside. The first thing to imagine is a sphere of white, brilliant light just above your head, and that is representing highest divinity, the highest form of divinity that you can fathom. You touch that, and you then bring your finger down to the center of your forehead, and you say, Ato. You don't just say it, you vibrate it. Ato, it means thine is, or yours is, or to you belongs. What I mean by vibrate, I mean that you're saying it in a way that makes your body vibrate. So you're not just whispering it or shouting it, but you're saying it from deep within yourself, and you're imagining that your voice is being heard to the ends of the universe. So you're down here and you're vibrating the word Ato. Your finger then goes down to your solar plexus, according to the Golden Dawn. In Thelema, they recommend touching your genitals, but in either case, your attention is in neither of those places. It is in the space between your feet, on the ground. You are imagining a sphere of light appearing just between your feet as you vibrate the word Malkut or Malkuth. The pronunciation is up to you. It doesn't really make any difference. It means the kingdom, and it's the lowest sphere in the tree of life. It's the sphere of physical manifestation, the sphere that surrounds us on a daily basis. From having your attention between your feet and imagining a line of white light traversing your whole body from divinity down to earth, you then touch your right shoulder. Again, according to Golden Dawn. Israel Regardie, who was a Golden Dawn initiate, wrote a book called The Middle Pillar, in which he gives great advice on performing the LBRP. In that book he says to start with the left shoulder and Vegedula, but in every other source that I've ever seen they recommend to start with the right shoulder with Vegevura. Vegevura or Vegebura is the same thing, okay? It means and the power. So as you touch your right shoulder, you imagine a shard of brilliant white light emanating from your right shoulder. Vegevura. Then you touch your left shoulder, Vegedula, and that means and the glory. And as you touch your left shoulder, you also imagine a shard of white light emanating from your left shoulder, and a line of white light going from your right shoulder to your left, inside your body. And extending outside of your body as well. So you're left with a cross of white light going from above your head to down between and beneath your feet, and then a shard of white light crossing in the center over here. So as you remember, you're finishing with your finger or your magical implement, dagger or wand or whatever you're using, on your left shoulder. Then you clasp both hands together with your fingers crossed like this, and you clasp your hands against your solar plexus and you say Leolam, which means forever. And then you say Amen, which means exactly what you know it means. While you're saying this, you're imagining this cross of white light still going through your body. At this point, you're ready to start the pentagrams themselves. Please remember, you're doing all of this facing east. So the pentagrams themselves go like this. You are facing east, so let's say that I'm facing east right now. If you have space to imagine that you have an altar in front of you, you can do that. If you've got space to have an altar in front of you, great. Bring your altar out and do it that way if it's sustainable. Remember that this is something that you're going to want to do once or even several times every single day. So if you can't just keep your altar out, don't bother having an actual physical altar. You can imagine that you've got an altar, or if you don't have space to imagine that there's a physical altar in front of you, then just don't imagine that you've got an altar. If you can imagine that there's an altar in front of you, that's great. You can walk around the left side of it until you're in front of it. Right, let me back up a little bit so you can see me properly. You're imagining that you're standing in front of your altar now, in the easternmost side of your temple or wherever you're performing the LBRP. You would then point to the bottom left, approximately at hip height, which is earth. So let me just get my back to you like this, so it's over here, right? Over here, earth. Over here is fire. Up here at about shoulder height is air, just above earth. And up here at about shoulder height is water, above fire. Immediately above head height is spirit. Okay, but let me show you like this, okay? You start off by pointing to the bottom left. This is where the sphere of earth is. In the Golden Dawn tradition, to banish, you go from earth to spirit. You're sending earth back to spirit. Okay, if you're banishing fire in the Golden Dawn, you go from fire to spirit. If you're banishing air, you're going from air to water, and if you're banishing water, you go from water to air. But in the Golden Dawn LBRP, you're only performing the pentagram of earth, the banishing pentagram of earth, 4 times in 4 directions. So you start off in the bottom left-hand corner, earth, and you imagine a line of blue flames from earth up to spirit. And then you continue that line of blue flames from spirit down to fire. Then the same line of blue flames, about hip height here, continues up to shoulder height to air, then across over to water, and finally back down to earth. So now you're standing in front of a flaming bright blue pentagram, and you pierce that pentagram, and because you're starting in the east, right? In the east, the name of God that you call when you're piercing that pentagram is Yod He Vav He, and you're continuing with this blue flaming light. So you describe a quarter circle all the way to the south, and there you perform the same pentagram in blue flaming lights. You pierce that, and the name that you're calling in the south is Adonai. Adonai, it means the Lord. Then your finger continues its journey to the west, and in the west you once again perform that banishing pentagram, and the name of God that you call in the west is Eheye. It means I am. You then continue this flaming blue circle to the north, and here you perform once again the pentagram in blue flames, and you call the fourth name of God Agla. So it's A-G-L-A, and it stands for Ato Gevura Leolam Adonai, and it means yours is the power forever, O Lord. And then you continue that circle back to where you started in the east, and now you're surrounded with 4 blue flaming pentagrams connected with one blue flaming circle. Once you're surrounded by a circle of flaming blue pentagrams, you then call the 4 angels, the 4 elemental archangels in each direction. And in the east, you call Raphael. And Raphael is an angel which in the Golden Dawn tradition represents air. And in the Golden Dawn tradition, air is yellow. And so you'd imagine Raphael in yellow robes in front of you with purple reflections in the robes. Buffeted by some wind, maybe you would feel fresh air on your face coming from that direction. Then behind you, you're imagining Gabriel, so Gabriel. Gabriel is the archangel representing water in the Golden Dawn tradition, and water in the Golden Dawn tradition is represented by the color blue. So Gabriel's robes will be blue with orange reflections. On your right hand will be Michael, and Michael you'll imagine as an angel with red flowing robes and holding a flaming sword. Red in the Golden Dawn tradition is fire. Michael in the Golden Dawn tradition represents fire. And then on your left hand is Uriel, so Uriel. And Uriel is the angel of earth. And so you'll imagine Uriel holding sheaves of wheat maybe, or maybe a pentacle, which is a disc with a pentagram inside representing earth. Uriel's feet are planted on the earth, and the colours of Uriel's robes are the traditional Golden Dawn colours of the sphere of Malkut, so citrine, ochre, olive green and black. As you call out each name, before me Raphael, behind me Gabriel, on my right hand Michael, on my left hand Uriel, you visualize those angels surrounding you and standing outside of that circle of blue flaming pentagrams which are still there. So you have to keep all of this in your imagination. And at the beginning it's kind of difficult to do, but then as you practice and you get better at it, it becomes second nature. At this point you will raise your hands on either side like this with your palms facing upwards, and you will say, "For around me flame the pentagrams." And you'll imagine the pentagrams flaming around you with those angels standing behind the pentagrams. Israel Regardie recommends imagining the angels standing behind them with the pentagrams as some kind of shield. "For around me flame the pentagrams, and in the column shines the 6-rayed star." When you say this part, "in the column shines the 6-rayed star," you imagine a column of bright light going from infinity upwards down through your body to infinity downwards. And if you looked at a cross-section of that column of light, you would see a 6-rayed Star of David. Right? So it's a column of light in the shape of a 6-rayed star going from infinitely upwards to infinitely downwards. Once again, you'll start your Kabbalistic cross, imagining that sphere of light above your head. Ato Malkut Vegevura Vegedula Leolam Amen. And when you're saying this, you're still imagining the whole scene around you, the angels, the blue flaming pentagrams, the circle connecting the centers of those pentagrams, the column of light going through your body, and also the light cross that is associated with the Kabbalistic cross. So that's it. That is the LBRP, the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, according to the Golden Dawn. Some of the Foolish Fish members have asked me to specifically demonstrate my version of the LBRP with all the little tweaks that I've been talking about in the previous videos leading up to this one. If you have a look down in the description, you'll be able to see I've linked the other videos that are relevant, which might give you an idea of why I've changed the LBRP in the way I have. The first thing to mention is that I perform the LBRP and the LIRP, the Lesser Invoking Ritual of the Pentagram, for different purposes. Before performing any other form of ritual, I would normally clear my environment and myself with a Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. And that will look like this. I will also start in the East. I think of fire in the East for reasons described in the other videos that I was talking about. But still Raphael. So Raphael representing fire with hot colors. And that is everything from yellow all the way to red. So yellow, orange, red. All of those colors, all of those rich, vibrant, hot colors in the East in Raphael. Behind me, to the opposite of Raphael, I have Gabriel. So Gabriel is all the vibrant, cold colors. So kind of greenish yellow all the way to violet, but mainly blue. So I think of Gabriel as blue with kind of greenish turquoisey reflections, and I think of Raphael as red with kind of orange and yellow flames, that kind of stuff. What's left for Michael, which I still retain in the south. Again, if this surprises you because of something that I've said in the past, have a look at all of the links. So I keep Michael in the south, and he can't be yellow because yellow I've kind of separated between fire and water. So what's left for Michael? Well, nothing. And that is what I give to Michael. I give him a shining armor with no color, just polished metal. So reflective, just an absence of color, just like air. You can't see air. That's the whole point of air, is that it's see-through. So glass, metal, chrome, those kinds of armors is what I give to Michael. The sword is coming out of his mouth. All right? The sword, for me, represents air, represents the intellect. And the fact that it's coming out of his mouth is even more confirmation of this, that it's data, right? That it's information, gnosis. So Michael represents air for me in shining metallic armor on my right. And on my left, I have Uriel in ochres and earth colors, browns and these kinds of colors on my left. So vivid colors in front and behind me, and absence of color and all the colors, right? So brown is all of the primary colors mixed together, then you get brown. So this is how I do my banishing. Now for me, banishing means moving anti-clockwise. The Golden Dawn LBRP moves clockwise. I move anti-clockwise when I'm banishing, clockwise when I'm invoking, and this is how I perform it. So I start my ritual facing the east. I don't want to perform my first pentagram in the east, and I'll show you how I get around that in a moment. But I do want to start in the east, and I perform the Qabalistic cross almost the way the Golden Dawn recommended, Atto, but I actually point down to between my feet, because that's actually where my intention is, right, between my feet. Still imagining that column of light from top to bottom. Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam. Now I actually put my fist on my chest, Leolam. It's a personal thing, 100% personal. I don't do this. This is not how I pray. This is a solemn gesture of intent, and it feels right. So when I say forever, Leolam, I mean it, and this is how I show it. And I say Amen like this. Then I point my finger out in front of me. And this is going to make sense when I then show you the invocation ritual that I perform. But I'm starting off with the finishing off bit of the invocation. So what I'm about to do is the invocation backwards, right? So I'm here and I go towards the north. Instead of going towards the south, as in the Golden Dawn version, I go towards the north. And this is why I perform the first pentagram of Earth, so starting at Earth, but it's the banishing pentagram according to the Aurum Solis. Now, I really like the Aurum Solis's way of doing things. I've explained it before in my videos. They perform the banishing in a Widdershins, so anti-clockwise direction. That's how they show that it's banishing. And for invoking, it's the other direction, right? It's clockwise, known as Deosil, right? So starting and ending always in the element that you wish to invoke or banish. But depending on whether you're invoking or banishing, anti-clockwise for banishing, clockwise for invoking. So if I'm banishing towards the north first, right? So east, over here. Now, banishing with a Widdershins pentagram of Earth. Then, this is recommended by Golden Dawn in the later papers. This is not described in the very first introduction. I perform the sign of the Enterer. Now, the sign of the Enterer looks like this. The left foot raises, steps forward, two hands shoot out in front, the head is between the shoulders like this, and the name of God is called out. So I'm now facing the north, and in the north the name of God is Agala. So I start off with Agala, Agala, and then I perform the sign of silence. So my left foot stamps back next to my right foot, my left finger comes up against my mouth, and this is the sign of silence, also known as the sign of Harpocrates. Now, I've seen many people perform the sign of Harpocrates with the right finger, but that is not the way it's described in the original papers of the Golden Dawn. It should be performed with the left hand. It makes sense to want to do it with the right hand if you're going around with your finger like this, just bringing it up to your mouth, but it should be the left hand. So, straight out in front, stamp, then your right finger goes out in front to the center of the flaming blue pentagram, and I continue my journey, and now I'm facing west. In the west, it's water, and I want to be performing a banishing pentagram, and so once again it's Widdershins, so anti-clockwise, ending in the sign of water in the right hand side at shoulder height. Then the sign of the Enterer, yeah. Over here to the south, it's air, so Michael for me. And the air is over here, just above Earth. And once again, it's a Widdershins pentagram. Down to fire, up to spirit, earth, water, air. Adonai. And now I'm facing east, which is where I started, but you'll remember that I haven't yet performed the pentagram in this direction. Yod He Vav He. So now I'm surrounded by a circle of pentagrams. Right, you remember that I started over here, so I don't need to finish that up, right? I started with the finishing up. So I'm surrounded with those flaming pentagrams. I do not invoke the angels if I'm banishing. However, what I do is that I finish up with another Qabalistic cross. Ato, Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. And that's it. That's my lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Once my area is cleansed, once myself, my mind, my whole self is cleansed with this banishing ritual, I then perform the invoking ritual to bring power to me to perform whatever I'm about to perform, but from a clean slate. So once again, I start in the east. Ato, Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. I go towards the east and I perform my first invoking pentagram of fire in the fiery east. And this is simply the opposite of the banishing fire pentagram, starting in the bottom right hand corner in the same way. However, this time we're going clockwise, Deosil, up to air, water, earth, spirit, fire. And this time I'm not doing the Enterer and the sign of silence. I'm just putting my finger through the center and calling the name of God. Yod He Vav He. The rest is the same on the outside. It's just that I am visualizing air over here with Michael in shining armor. And air starts up here, over here like this, clockwise direction. Adonai. So over in the west, I perform a Deosil or clockwise pentagram of water, starting in the top right hand corner and finishing in the top right hand corner, going clockwise. I pierce it and call the name Eheye. I then continue to the north and perform a invoking pentagram of earth, which looks exactly like the banishing pentagram of earth from the Golden Dawn, because it's Deosil, it's clockwise, right? You're probably seeing it anti-clockwise because you're watching me doing it from in front, but it is from bottom left, up, down, left, right, and down. It's clockwise, okay? And of course I'm doing it towards the north, okay? Up, down, like this, okay? I then pierce it and call the name of God, Agela. So again, calling to the ends of the universe. And I finish over here in the east. So from here, I put my arms out to the side and I call the 4 archangels of the elements. Before me, Raphael. But instead of seeing Raphael in yellow, I see him in vivid reds, in flames, in fact. Behind me, Gabriel. I imagine Gabriel behind me. No orange color, but rather blues and turquoises and some green. On my right hand, Michael. So on my right, I have Michael in shining armor. And on my left hand, Uriel. So I imagine Uriel standing up to my left with feet firmly on the ground in those ochre, brown, beige, earthy colors. For around me flame the pentagrams, and in the column shines the 6-rayed star. Ato, Malkut, Vegevura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. And that's it. That's the invoking ritual of the pentagram according to Foolish Fish. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I wanted in particular to thank my level 3 members, as every Saturday, the Magister Venerabilis level members. And those are Suncat, Ted Kaiser, Grillo Alba, Sean Glenn, J. Joseph Safi, Kyle Walker, Roluch Ashron, FMA, Charbon, Patrick, Arcantum by Mr. Friborg, Mr. Gunwich, Rahul Nair, The Jade Ghost, Miles Ponce, Timothy Owens, SMQAI, Z. Daniel Barnett, and Jason. Thank you all of you for your kind support. If you're interested in memberships, remember that members get all of these Saturday videos 1 week in advance. They also get the Foolish Fish news segment every Thursday, and probably most importantly, they get access to the Discord chat server, which is live day and night with people talking to each other about so many different esoteric topics. It's a thrill. Thank you so much for watching once again. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and see you very soon with another video.